music.
Good evening and welcome in. Welcome in. Thank you for joining us for another episode. Thank you for taking the time out, whether it's your first time, your last time. I appreciate you taking out this time to be with us here this evening. I'm AP, I'm your host, and this is Timeouts and Tangents. And we are joined by one of the greatest the West Bank has ever produced, that's for sure. The national champ, Super Bowl champ, illustrious LSU analyst for the sidelines and game days, the one and only Mr. Hello Somebody himself, Marlon Big Fave Bright. How you doing this evening, Fave?
AP, I'm feeling pretty good, man. Pretty dope intro, brother. Hello, somebody.
Man, look, like I said, I did that all on my own, man. And it took me about 8 hours on a good Saturday night. But I did it. I did it, man. So, Fave, just for anybody who's not familiar with your game, kind of let them know out before the LSU and the Saints stuff, like where you from, what you claim, what schools you went to, and why you are who you are today.
Well, I'm from Harvey, Louisiana. I spent some time in Marrero as well, so I'm a true West Banker. I actually went to two high schools. I went to Archbishop Shaw for 2 years, my freshman and sophomore year, and I graduated from West Jeff junior and senior year there under Coach Hank Tierney.
So you played with the legend himself. So what was that like coming up through Shaw and catching Hank Tierney through those prime years of his coaching career?
As a football player and at the time as a young man, it was just extremely rewarding. You have a coach not only that and a staff of coaches that cared about their players, but from a high school development standpoint, when I did get to LSU, I was already technically sound and obviously needed to get caught up to the speed of the game. But my time under that coaching staff at Coach Hank, both at Shaw and West Jeff, I do owe that staff everything in terms of just the base of what I do and the opportunities. Think about it like this. Today, we have Huddle and all of these different resources we could use. Back then, Coach Hank had to, if it was 40 schools recruiting me, he had to make 40 VHSs. He had to break down the highlights, not just for me, my peers too. So just thinking back to the hard work and dedication they put in, it really put us in the position we are now.
I think that's a lot. That's one of the big things that a lot of us take for granted is the access to so many tools and so much technology around us that we forget, like what coaches had to do and the sacrifices that they had to make for players like yourself coming up, and you just mentioned it right there, like 40 VHSs. Somebody listening to this at some point is going to think, well, what the hell is a VHS? That is an actual cassette that we used to have to put into a tape player.
Right.
It wasn't just pressing a button and watching what was going on the moment that it happened so you could have instant highlights. So to have a man and a staff that was dedicated to doing that for 100 plus players to make sure that guys like yourself had an opportunity at the next level just goes to show the type of sacrifices that he was making, and it highlights the character that he has. So that's very big. So you repping the Tigers right now. I know I'm familiar with you. I was able to watch you as you were coming up through LSU from afar while I was on campus missing classes. I want to know, through your recruitment process, what made you choose LSU?
Well, this place is very infectious, and just being a native of the area, to play for the flagship school of the state, those three letters mean everything. So that played a major role. Being heavily recruited, you could potentially go through for decision fatigue. But what I had to learn through the recruiting process is you got to take everything with a grain of salt and make sure where you go, that's where you want to spend most of your time. And I knew Baton Rouge was going to be the place for me. So it was a combination. I played in the Army All-American Bowl game one week, so I had to cancel Miami trip. But I just took two of my visits. I went to Colorado. At the time, Vance Joseph was recruiting heavy in this area, and had offered me early on. And then, of course, went to LSU for my visit, and from there it was a wrap. A lot of my buddies like Skylar Green, Craig Davis, Dominique Cooper, those guys were already there. So it was just a matter of making a decision.
Right. So when you first got to LSU, it was kind of like your welcome to college moment for you.
You talking about on the field or off the field?
Both.
Well, off the field, I think the student body got an opportunity to really find out who I was when I got there. Michael Clayton had his draft party. So, I mean, the DJ was going ham. Me and my homie Che went out there, bro, and we put on a show. We dancing, brought that New Orleans flavor to Baton Rouge. And from there, boy, they fell in love with us on campus. I knew it was going to hit. Football-wise, I guess, playing for Coach Saban, you have a number of coming to Jesus moments. And my freshman year, when we ran 36 110s, now, we were supposed to run 26 that day, but I don't mean to pick on guys, but people like Terrell McGill, believe it or not, Benny Brazil, these guys, it's funny just reminiscing about this. These guys didn't uh, finish in their times running the 110s. And, back then we ran them things in the stadium. You got the stadium, the
Oh,
sun just prowling
ooh,
down on it. It's 110 degrees heat index. But that created, men and just us all having relentless attitudes on the field, and essentially led to a national championship and countless BCS appearances. So, yeah, man, that was the coming to Jesus moment at LSU. The summer, all that
man,
happened within the signing time in the summer.
that's amazing, man. I mean, you definitely got to come up through, legit legends from high school, even to college, and even in the pros. Like we're talking about Hall of Famers that you were blessed to be coached under. So when you look at how you were coached, how you were trained, and you see how today's coaches are working, what do you think they are able to do in this environment with this different breed of player to continue to make themselves as successful as a staff like LSU had when you were coming up?
I think the biggest thing for the coach today is you have to build an NFL type roster. Like if you don't have the ability to build an NFL top type roster in a year or two, you'll fall behind the eight ball, especially in Power Four football. We've seen it this past season. Um, the way Coach Franklin got fired quickly. We saw how, even from a decision standpoint for your future job, Coach Kiffin, he had to leave Ole Miss abruptly because of this new process. So I think that's the most challenging part for those coaches. The advantage we had back then, coaches were able to build. So I didn't
Mm-hmm.
have to rush. I come in the number one defensive tackle in the country. I redshirted and I was okay with it. My ego wasn't high. I wasn't sitting on. I was laughing because Gordon McKernan and the professor, shouts out to the G team. I have a community engagement deal with them, NIL. And they said, Gordon asked, he said, Professor, if Big Fade was coming out with to get him an NIL deal, what you think, his value would be? And he said, man, we probably paying Big Fade close to $1 million, based off of how highly he was recruited coming out. So just for them to tell that story in retrospect, kind of put my mind in a time frame of I would have probably wanted to bounce or go somewhere and get some money had I not got
Right.
on. I have had to literally, if me and Glenn, well, Glenn played, he actually started twice as a freshman and a sophomore. So he had 4 starts under his belt because Coach Saban got mad at Claude, and then the next year it was the same thing with him and Coach Dunbar. So it was just, he lost his starting job twice, and Claude still got drafted high. But you know, that was me 2 years sitting on the bench. I mean, redshirted as a freshman. And I do respect Coach Saban because he came to me, look at me like a man in my eyes and say, look, we're gonna redshirt you this year. You don't have to play. It was tough. You coming in on a high, right,
Right.
and then you get redshirted. But it was a humbling experience. Got a little extra time in the classroom and had a chance to learn how to be a collegiate football player. And then the next year, I played in 4 games if you count the bowl game, Katrina
Mm.
year, and
Yeah.
then the next year I started. Then from there we were 3-year rotational starters, all of us. But we didn't. It was just I couldn't imagine if I'm being real, I couldn't imagine staying after Katrina. Like if I'm not starting or I'm coming in the top dog, but that's the time frame we in now. These
Right.
we're in a huge. This is not even a regular microwave era. This is like a hot pocket microwave.
For real, like you're
Yeah,
right. Like it's not even microwave pizza. It's straight hot pocket. Like
for real.
if you don't have the time and the patience, then you on to the next real quick. So that's why you got to give these coaches like Kirby Smart who can bring these players in and still be able to retain them on a high level. Even credit to Pete Golden and the school over in Oxford. Like
Hmm.
they, for the most part, they did a good job of retaining the roster that Lane Kiffin built. You know, but let's not forget who built that roster, and we'll get
Yeah.
to Lane in a second. But I want you to reflect and take me back to a dog day of practice, your hardest practice that you can remember at LSU. And what was the moment or moments that were able to get you through those days?
I mean, I talked about the 110 days. I would probably have to say, man, I don't remember exactly when this was, and I know she probably remember. But Hurricane Katrina had just hit. This was Coach Miles'
Hmm.
first year, and he didn't. He wasn't used to this type of tropic, right? So
All right.
Coach Miles had this thing where his practices used to be like 3.5 hours long, and that's. I don't know if you just listened to Coach Signetti. He was just basically saying that he was talking about how they had practice hour 30 minutes max. It was like that with Coach Saban. Like when we was Coach Saban in '04, my first year there, man, them practices fly, and I could tell a difference because I could tell a difference, and I'll get back to the story here
Yeah,
momentarily.
yeah.
But I could tell a difference because we'll have a little time to go holler at a little spuggy, get something to eat, then go to study hall. Boy, and Coach Miles, shoot, boy, you barely had enough time to eat and get to study hall. Just tell you how long the practices were.
Right.
Well, Katrina had hit. We were all. It was an extended training camp basically, right? Because when Katrina hit, like it was almost right at the time the students were coming back on campus, but we hadn't played the first game yet. So it was like the practice just continued to extend. I remember one day during that time frame, it had to have been early September. Man, we were all tired at the practice, and Baton Rouge was the hub for the victims. Like the Pete Maverick Center was
Right.
turned into
Direct.
a hospital. So we would
Right.
go volunteer and stuff after practice. But practice was so long, I never forget. Shelly basically took Coach Miles' face, said indirectly, I think it's stupid. We still out here practicing, got all this stuff going on. Guys are tired. We putting guys have got more bumps and bruises, and I just think this is ridiculous. But it was Coach Miles that had us out there that long. She was talking directly to him indirectly. It was crazy. But I could just
That's
remember
funny.
those days. Yeah, because it was Coach Miles had this thing where practices would be 3.5 hours long. So you out there some days full pads and you just going. Just
Right.
seemed like we're just going on and on and on. That was his deal. And that just wasn't the time. So if you think of dog days, yeah, Hurricane Katrina, those practices were serious.
Man, that's crazy. And I can tell you, like being a fan during that time, like y'all got us through.
Mm.
because the Saints weren't crap.
No,
Like,
the next year they
the
bounced
Saints,
back.
the Saints, the Saints weren't a thing, and that's actually a great segue to my next thing. Like your career was a very interesting one once you got out of LSU. But I'm gonna jump a little bit far in ahead because a little bit further ahead because last night Drew Brees was elected as a first ballot Hall of Famer. You were blessed enough to be a part of that Super Bowl team that we had here in New Orleans. So tell me about your time and like what you got to know from Drew, and how did like your experience of being under a quarterback, and now a Hall of Fame quarterback
Yeah.
at that level.
Yeah, Drew was special. Drew, I was on his teammate for like a few weeks, but in that time frame, I was there with the Saints. Obviously it was a Super Bowl run, and what I remember about Drew, the first time I met him, my first impression, I signed with the Saints. I want to say this was a Monday or a Tuesday. I signed with the Saints because I think the date. Yep. So it was the 19th. I signed my first day of practice. It was the 20th, January 20th, 2010. And I can remember at the time we lived in Algiers, so I got up early. It was still dark, and I drove to the facility. I wanted to be there super super early. So the parking lot was empty except for Mercedes Benz. That Mercedes Benz was for Drew
Mm.
Brees. The dude was the first dude to get to the facility and typically the last one to leave. So his dedication alone. So when you think about the advantage most great quarterbacks have, it's half and half. It's in between the ears, but the physical intangibles as well. Drew don't have the height, nor he has an accuracy, but not the big strong arm is most top-notch quarterbacks. So you have to work extra harder in those areas. You have to excel. That's like go by Trail. I mean by Marlon. Say hey, you're live.
What
Marlon,
up, Titan?
say hey. Look, Trail called
Now
me.
you good, man.
Go by Trail. Yeah. Titan heard Titan heard you talking about the Saints. He liked them Saints. He got a Drew Brees
Yeah.
jersey. Yep. Um. So
but
go ahead. I'm
but no,
sorry.
he had to make up for those physical abilities that he lacked.
Correct. Right. So he's the most accurate quarterback I've ever played with. But even the height. Yeah, I think Jabari Evans got robbed from the Hall of Fame this year. Drew really
Yeah.
depended on his center and his guards to step up in the
Right.
pocket to make those throws. Just to do the little thing where he kind of hike his chin up so he can see, because he wasn't tall, so he
Right.
had to make sure he's an archer. So I think that's something when you really take a look back at his career and wonder how. That's how. I mean, he was extremely dedicated. He worked hard. Was a team player. And I can say that about, I ain't gonna lie. And one of the things I'm really thankful for is having a chance to play with multiple Super Bowl winning and Hall of Fame quarterbacks. Peyton had a different way he approached the game than Drew, and Drew was different from how Tom Brady approached it. Well, so it's
Right.
just being and having front row seat to those guys because I was all of their practice squad defensive line. So I was all of the practice squad defensive linemen. So just kind of thinking back at just the type of professionalism those guys carried and the way they approached the game. So congrats to Drew. I hadn't had a chance to publicly say it, but congrats to Drew Brees on making it to the Hall of Fame. Well deserved. No, it wasn't going to take two ballots. I mean, just
At
one heck
all.
of
It
a
shouldn't have.
career. Help us deliver our first. Could have been two Super Bowls, three really, but that one that we got together, bro, was timeless, and what a time to be alive.
Yeah, man. So if you look at it, bro, like you definitely had, you know, your lineage from coaches to quarterbacks, man, have been littered by Hall of Fame players and people just all around you, man. That's an amazing thing. Like when you sit down and think about it, and you and I talk often, and I never even pieced that together until just now. So that's amazing. You got to practice and go against the goats and see what their process is like. So now that you've seen this firsthand from all these players and coaches. What is your assessment for LSU bringing in a guy like Lane Kiffin?
Oh man, my assessment is, and I'm really good friends with our athletic director, Verge Alsbury. We go back. Um, I think it was a big, huge notch and green check on his resume as an AD.
Mm-hmm.
Because we needed one thing that's unique about Coach Lane. The X's and O's he got down pack. I mean, I'm even taking you to 2019, our 2019 team. Boy, Lane was going ball for ball with us.
Yeah.
I mean, I think he put up a 50 burger, if I'm not mistaken, offensively. I
Yeah,
think they had
they was
Plumlee or
doing their
something.
thing.
Yeah, so to bring back that offensive mind, big ups to Buffalo. They got Joe Brady. Those guys had the formula. I mean, they had the talent around too. So I think if you look at LSU in the last 2 years, what we were able to do defensively with Coach Blake Baker, and what we know from an offensive mindset that Coach Lane brings, man, this is going to be a super team. You know,
Yeah.
um, a couple of things about Coach Lane. How he brought Ole Miss their most winning season, but he didn't. This is their first time in the playoffs. He never won a natty as an OC he did. Won in
Thank you.
2015 with Coach Saban. So
Right.
he knows what it takes to win a championship. So I mean, I think when we go back and look at the hire and I analyze each decision that went into it. I mean, it really puts LSU back in the position we were in 19 and the type of teams we had in 06 and 07. And even I wasn't on this team, but just being senior high school watching that 03 football team do it.
Right.
I mean, Coach Jimbo Fisher, I think of guys like Coach Tom Monken, who's now head coach out with the Browns
In Cleveland.
in Cleveland. So, that's the type of minds I'm used to being around. And Coach Lane is right in the company with those guys. The way he interacts. I saw on his Twitter he had posted up Algiers Point. You know what I'm saying?
Yep.
I saw he reposted one of your deals. So just really jumping into the community, being a part of Louisiana right away. He's embracing it. He understands. So I'm excited because we got to be in the college playoffs. Period. If we
Yes.
could go to the
Yes.
show, that'll be great. But we gotta, and I do feel like when we look back at this coaching search and how we got to get on the Lane train, it all. So big ups to Verge. Congratulations to Coach Lane, and welcome to the bike, baby.
Yeah, man. I agree with everything that you said, and then even going back further than just that Alabama run that he had with Coach Saban, we forget that he was an OC and QB coach for Pete Carroll. Like
To the USC
he
day,
was
yeah,
right. He was the architect behind that Matt Leinart, Reggie Bush, and Lindell White offense.
that's right.
Like he's been doing it, and his game has been able to evolve with every era of college football. He said something in his press conference, and I tweeted it out. Um, when he was talking about the pay structures and the evaluation process, and that stood out to me because most of the time you hear these college head coaches, talk about recruiting and the aspect of retaining staff almost as like it's still the same way that it was. And you hinted at it earlier when you said you got to have a professional team. And I think Lane is taking that approach with this LSU job. Not to say he didn't do the same thing at Ole Miss. I think he did to the limit that it can get him. I mean, if we're calling a spade, Ole Miss just doesn't have the resources that LSU has. And you see that now. I mean, hell, as a fan, I didn't think we had this level of resources either. But anytime you see your head coach jumping on a plane at 9 o'clock at night to run to Knoxville, knowing full well that a quarterback is leaving Knoxville and about to head to Miami, and you got to close that deal with that guy to get him on campus. That's first of all, it ain't cheap to fly private, and it ain't cheap to fly private like it's an Uber. That's a whole nother set of expenses. And not only did he do it once, Not only did he do it once, he did it twice, and he did it for an offensive lineman. And that's kind of where I want to jump into next. When you look at the way reorganized and restructured the line of scrimmage specifically, and I think when you look back at this 25 LSU football team, everybody likes to throw the issues on the O line. But my biggest problem, that's not talked about is the D line. While we played solid on the D line, we didn't produce at the level that we needed to for the defense. This defense was a top 30 defense, but your leading sack getter was 4.5 sacks from a linebacker.
Yeah.
How do you feel, one, being the D lineman that you are, being the D line coach that you are, how do you feel with this fresh crop of D linemen that LSU's brought in for this 26 season and what they've done on the O line?
Man, I feel great about it. I think that, retaining Dominic McKinley, bringing in Prince Million.
Yeah, Prince Well, you mind me yelling?
You mind me yelling. Sorry, you mind me yelling. A surefire edge rush. I mean, you mind me yelling goes second, third round if he goes to this year's draft. What up, Paul? And then I think about, okay, then you look at just the nucleus of having depth at that position as well, having guys that can rotate in.
Yeah.
So, yeah, you're right. The offensive line did get a lot of slack last year, but you look at the Miami Hurricanes defensive line, you look at, what those guys were able to do even at Clemson on their D-line. I do think we took a step back this year in that area.
No, you're absolutely right, man. And shout out Paul, my guy.
What's up, Paul?
On just about every stream. Big LSU fan. My dude's gonna be jumping on doing some baseball talk with us here later on tonight, so y'all stay tuned for that. But no, like the you know me. You actually know me, so
Yeah.
I can say that you know me. Like when I'm watching football, I'm paying attention to the trenches, and the amount of times we had to dial up blitzes from the corners and from the safeties is not what you want to have to do on the defense, but it's also a good understanding that Blake Baker had of where his defense was lacking. So he knew he had to disguise his fronts and run games and stunts to free people up to to manufacture pressure. So the defensive coordinator letting you know off the dump that we can't do it with just 4. So we got to get creative. And props to him for getting creative. And it highlights to me, though, that from this staff to the previous staff, the evaluation process is night and day. And I think that is the key that's going to set Lane Kiffin up for so much more success. Because you had the number 1 portal class last year, right? And you went 7-6. Spent $18 million and didn't get out that roster what you needed to get out of it. You got the number 1 portal class again this year. You flipped over your entire roster. You're bringing in 60 total new players. 60 total new players. You went out and did it bigger than what the NFL does. And in that, you created depth. And Lane even said this in the press conference, it's not just about the frontline guys. It's about the depth, because if you don't have depth to practice and prepare against, how do you truly know what you're setting yourself up for? You played in an era where y'all had elite depth. So I want you to help the audience understand like why that depth matters before you even get into the season. Not just having guys to fill in, but for that preparation aspect of things.
Well, it's a number of ways to look at it. I mean, now we only have 1 transfer portal, so it's not like a guy could leave in the spring. So the team that's there is the team that's there. Particularly on a defensive line, you want depth to create fresh legs, but not declining talent. So when you look at LSU being able to rotate across the line 12, 13 guys, and the production doesn't drop, that creates championships. You look at other positions like linebacker, receiver, being able to shoot. We got three capable quarterbacks. Um,
Yes.
Obviously, something else that plays a role is injuries. Um, Drake Nevis, Drake, and Al Woods, those guys had to be able to jump in and play when me and Glenn was hurt, and we don't drop a step. So I think that's the most important thing. It's good to have names. It's good to have, man, this guy here is super productive. But if the other guys across the line don't match up to his production, that makes the whole line bad, which affects the defense. A huge part of defenses being able to be productive is because of the D line, whether it's pressure, whether it's sacks. Those quarterbacks, those corners, they can't cover that long. So if your D line not getting pressure, there you go. So that's why you look at guys like Delaney, where his stock is right now. You're looking at mid first rounder,
Mhm.
a future first rounder, and this guy unfortunately hit the portal. But Ashton Stamps, he's out at Arizona State right now. He's someone that could cover long and man coverage. So
Right.
that's the important depth, if you ask me.
Absolutely, man. And so this incoming freshman D line class is heralded as one of the greatest ever assembled. How much do you think that they'll actually be able to contribute within that first year?
Well, I think they are going to be contributors. I don't know how much. I don't know if one of the guys will be starting. I don't know if it'll be a situation where um, one sticks out more than the other. But just based off of value, you can't put up almost a ticket on freshmen and they're not contributing or playing. So
Right.
I do think with the depth that we have in front of these young guys, they got enough time to grow. But I do think once they get a swing of things, they will get some playing time, whether it's a non-conference game or if they're all at an advantage, they're all early signees. So you get in, you learn, you could compete in the spring. You might be competing for a starting position. So, it really varies and it depends on the player.
So what would you say your expectations would be for this LSU team going into 2026?
My expectations is to get in the college football playoffs. I don't. I know Coach Lane probably could get to the Natty this year, and that would be great. I would love to go with broadcast another national championship. But
Mm,
at the end of the day, setting small, achievable goals as a team will matter, and we just accomplished one. We got the number one class this year again. We got some players that's going to be major contributors to the team. We got a little versatility, a little diversity in terms of location. Some of these guys are from different parts, but you got enough Louisiana natives, that's going to be major contributors to the game. I mean, you get Trey as Green back. He's a one-on-one shoot, two-on-one matchup nightmare. So
facts.
I factor all of that in, and I'm like, yeah, this is definitely built into one of those teams.
Would you say that, there was a lot of uproar and fuss made about some of the losses within the coaching staff that we made that took place. One in particular was Frank Wilson had a lot of people kind of split. It was a polarizing decision. Me personally, I don't care that we lost Frank because I feel like just being a father, being from New Orleans, knowing what this recruiting game looks like, that as long as LSU is showing up within these schools and building these relationships with these coaches, it doesn't matter who's the one that's wearing the shirt, jacket, hoodie, or whatever. As long as those three letters are walking across the door and building genuine relationships, will be fine. And the fact that you have a guy like Lane Kiffin, who is known, who is tenacious in his recruiting, who has a presence and can relate to these kids at their level, just highlights it even more. So that was my personal opinion. I
Yeah.
didn't think too much of losing Frank. Props to Ole Miss for getting a guy who can recruit and has those inroads already. But what do you feel about some of these coaching changes and the quote unquote issue of losing your New Orleans guys?
Well, I will say this. Big ups to Coach Frank. Congratulations on getting the job at assistant head coach, running back coach. I
Right.
think it worked out better for Coach Frank. You know, you look at LSU over the last few years. Yes, we were able to lock up and get some guys in state to come play, but the running back room did decline.
Right.
Took a major decline. Coach Frank coached the running backs. You know, that was his that was his area. Um, you know, I think back. Hold on one second. I think back to sorry y'all.
No, you good, man.
I had my phone.
Life be life.
I think back to just thinking out loud. Um, when we had here's what Coach Frank value really is. First and foremost, you're right. He's a well-known polarizing figure here in Louisiana. They say me and Coach Frank go back to the early 2000s when I played for Coach Hank at West Jeff, and we got a personal relationship. You know, Frank, my dog, like we cool. But from a professional standpoint, it was time to make a change. And from what I understand, Coach Frank and Coach Lane Kiffin, you know, they ran a bit, you know, throughout their career, so they knew of each other as well. But Coach Frank value laid in Coach Kelly. Coach Kelly wasn't familiar with the New Orleans area. Coach Kelly didn't really know
Yep.
this and that. So you need a Coach Frank, a Coach Jaluk, a Coach Dave Johnson, you know, these guys who from the city who know everybody. But this is LSU. So technically, you don't really need those guys. All you really need is the three letters. So when we look at it from that lens, then it's like, oh, you're right. You're right. It worked out best for both parties. Coach
Yes.
Frank got the job he deserved. He
Yes.
deserved to be an assistant head coach again and a running backs coach. He wasn't gonna get that here.
Right.
Coach Smith is coach's Kiffin's guy.
Right.
They've won games together, if I'm not mistaken, at UCF as well.
Yes.
So, you know,
Well,
you have to look at
FAU.
it. You see? So I look at it from that perspective as well.
No, you're absolutely right. I think it was the best thing for both sides. Like you said, I mean, I think it was very smart for Ole Miss to jump on Frank and take him in. I think he would have been one of the hottest available assistant coaches because of his ties to Louisiana. And for him to go back to a place that he's familiar with, you know, he coached at Oxford already, so it was smart for Pete Golding to do that. However, do I think that that's going to be some type of advantage for Ole Miss to recruit in Louisiana? Hell no, not at all.
Because we're gonna
Because
be winning. It's when
right,
LSU is winning, nobody can come in. The
nobody can
only way
come in.
we're able to do that, let me say, the only reason guys left is because at some point in Coach Miles' career, he didn't evolve.
Yep.
And Coach Saban was winning championship at the championship. So whenever Pete Golden would come into New Orleans when he was at Alabama, I
Mm-hmm.
mean, he get whoever he want. He's from the area too. He's from Hammond. He
Right.
get whoever he want, and now you got Landon Collins and guys like Robbie Green going to uh to Alabama. Same thing applies. Look, Jalou can come in from Texas. I got my boy Dave out there at Arkansas. We got Frank and Ole Miss. We know one thing about all of those three schools. As long as LSU winning, it's going to be very hard. And the
It's gonna
reality
be
for
hard.
those guys, y'all not going to be able to get the 4 and 5 stars that y'all used to getting when you got the three letters. So
Yep.
now for those players, I mean, for those coaches, it's going to be important. And this is free game for my homies. Y'all gonna have to do a little more soul searching. You got to go find them worthy 2 and 3 stars.
Yeah.
So you know that girl, she cute, but she ain't a dime piece. You
You
know,
got to
and you
make
know
a
that's
one.
You got to go after the cute girls. You know, that's 2 and 3 stars. You ain't gonna be able to get the dime pieces to 5 stars like you want them.
Right.
You can
You're not
try.
gonna right. You can't get that 4.0 GPA prom queen captain of the cheerleading team. You gotta go find that girl that's got the 3.5 GPA that's, quiet, shy, and don't really go out and hang out with nobody. You better go
Bingo.
dig, and then you gotta convince her to put some contacts in, put her hair up, take it out the bun, flat iron
You
it a
see
little
where I'm
bit.
going with
You know
this?
what I'm saying? Yeah, you gotta go put some work in that, because
Yep.
those not only did the three letters come off your chest, your colors changed, and
Yeah.
people gonna look at you a little different.
And
But
we're just
okay,
talking high school recruiting here. We're not
right,
talking. You know, them boys
portal,
gonna do work in the portal. I ain't
right,
saying that,
right, right,
but I'm just
right.
saying
That's
like,
that's a different level of recruiting game.
right.
You know what I'm saying? And even honestly, Lane is showing us right now that the approach to recruiting with high school and the portal for LSU is different for
Mm-hmm.
everybody else. And he said so.
100%.
He said as much. As players are stepping onto this campus and they're feeling like this place is just different. You are stepping into a college campus that is treated like a professional atmosphere.
And it's just different, bro. It's just
It's
LSU
it's
is just different. It's
it's
hard
just
to.
different.
It is. 'Cause I go to like, we traveled across the SEC. We went to different places. It's tough in Oxford. Oxford, yeah, you close to Tennessee, to Memphis, and all of that, but you just North Mississippi. There's nothing out there. Starksville,
Right.
there's nothing out there. You know, Austin
You got
Street.
28,000 people stay in Oxford. 28,000.
Yeah,
That's it. Baton
it's the
Rouge
culture,
is
man.
right.
It's
You get
everything,
down here,
man.
and then the people live for this. Like
Yeah.
the Saints, everybody within the Gulf loves the Saints. You got Saints fans from New Orleans up to North Louisiana, all the way out to parts of Florida, and even in the parts of Texas, because it touches the Gulf, right? So that's not out. We share the Saints. LSU is ours.
Yeah.
That is Louisiana. You cannot claim it. So it is legitimately the fabric and the essence of this state. And when we can take pride in something, because being from Louisiana, we don't really have too much that we can take pride in. We haven't produced a president. We don't launch tech billionaires and tech companies every day. We rank 50th in education. People like to drag on us because of our crime. So what do we hang our hats on? You can come down here, have a good time, eat, and we're going to be friendly. Right? Well, that's not marketable. We can't really just brag on that all the time. Oh, y'all like football? Well, guess what? We do that better than anybody else.
Yeah, and that's
And we
where I know Coach Kiffin will bring LSU back to that attraction. I mean, people is coming just because the place is nice. Like I said, LSU is just different. But Coach Kiffin has the personality, the football knowledge, and the ability to continue to bring in the best players and bring LSU back to his winning tradition. So, yeah, man, you're 100% right.
Man, I love it. I love it, Faye. Faye, we could keep doing this all night. I know you
Yeah,
gotta go. And we're gonna go ahead and wrap it up here. Let everybody know where they can find you and follow you at, and also about your music. Because what they don't know is when you said put on the show, you really be rocking the mic. Well, the girl was in here singing "Hello Somebody" till she fell asleep on the sofa last
oh
night.
man, that's cool.
Yeah, real talk. That's real rap right there. So let people know where they can find your music, follow you for more information, and then just get up with you on your podcast too on Monday night.
Definitely, man. Y'all can follow me at Big Fave 504 on Twitter, on Instagram, wherever you do your social media at. Football season, you can catch me with the LSU Sports Radio crew. Me, Brandon, and Hunt do our thing. As my man AP mentioned, you can check us out on ESPN Baton Rouge is live every Monday 6:30 p.m. With our podcast Inside the Trenches with your boy Marlon Favorite. Yeah, man. Big Fave. Go to y'all Apple Music, Spotify, YouTube, wherever you do your music. BIGFAV. Treat yourself to Hello Somebody and check out the rest of the songs
Hmm.
on the profile, baby. I appreciate you for having me tonight.
Man, look, I thank you for having me. For everybody else in the chat, Give me like 10 minutes. We're going to be right back at it. My boy Paul coming up. We're going to do some LSU baseball next. Y'all stay tuned. About to hit this outro fade. Don't sign out just yet.